Peter Cooper and I got to know each other first weekend of college over at Wofford in 1988. He was a very dedicated music fan from the start. I've said this before. It's kind of interesting. He was, REM was big in the South in the late '80s, and I don't know. I guess Guns N' Roses was maybe the big rock metal band that most everybody was knew about. Peter was a big Nancy Griffith fan. There probably weren't too many college freshmen, especially guys, in 1988 who were, obsessed with Nancy Griffith. But that was Peter. He was a big folk music fan and country music fan. I like rock stuff too. I don't mean to say that he didn't appreciate all kinds of things, but he was especially dialed into folk music and singer-songwriter kind of stuff, and just very, very knowledgeable. I mean, he was well read. He was extremely smart, so he could pick up information and retain it like nobody have ever known. Peter always said that the two people who really taught him how to write were John Lane and Dino Trachis, who were two of his English professors at Wofford, and are well-known, beloved writers, creative guys here in Spartanburg. And John actually gave Peter his first opportunity as a music journalist. John had a freelance writing gig with the Mountain Express weekly publication up around Asheville, and was going to do a review of a Guy Clark concert. John was not feeling well that night and couldn't do it, and so he pitched the idea to the editor up there of letting Peter, who was still a college student, do it. That John thought Peter could pull it off, and so Peter got this opportunity to write a concert review about Guy Clark, and it went well. And he got hired to do more work with Mountain Express, and things kind of took off for him, from there. And a few years later, it was Hub City Writers Project wanted to do a history of musicians, music characters from Spartanburg, and they thought Peter would be the guy to do it. And he of course jumped in to that. I guess Peter was about 25 or 26 when he was given the opportunity to write the Hub City Music Makers book. That was a project through Hub City Writers. It was around 1995 or 96, I guess, when the Hub City Writers Project wanted to produce a book about all the wonderful music characters from Spartanburg, and reaching back into history, but then also writing about some of the people who were then currently making music and writing songs and such. And they picked Peter to write the book, and of course he dove into it, and just did an amazing job with that book, and I think unearthed some things about the history of music in Spartanburg, especially with some of the old blues singers and things. Unearthed some things that maybe not too many people really knew about or talked about. And then, of course, wrote wonderful pieces about the Marshall Tucker Band and Marshall Chapman and other, Joe Bennett, and the Sparkle Tones people, musicians who folks did know about, but Peter brought their stories to life in new and really, compelling ways. And that book really was a big part, I think, of his getting hired at the Nashville Tennessean just a couple years after the book came out, where he was the lead country music journalist there at the daily paper in Nashville. And from there, his career just really blossomed and took off. Peter loved writing about musicians who were not necessarily well known, but who made great art and who deserved to have an advocate. He was also great at writing about country hit makers, and kind of shining an interesting new perspective on them. He wasn't that interested in writing just the celebrity magazine kind of profiles, but actually digging in and finding the things that were unique and different, interesting to tell about those people. And he had especially a passion for writing about some of the older country music writers and performers, session musicians even, who people knew, right, but who had not necessarily been on the charts in a long time, had not been written about that much in a long time. He became very close friends with Tom T. Hall, with a pedal steel guitar player named Lloyd Green, who had played on just countless records. So when Randy asked me if I was interested in doing a song of Peter's, I thought about Thompson Street. A few things about it. It was a song that Peter wrote when he still lived in Spartanburg. So it had that connection. And then it's a song about Spartanburg. Thompson Street is a little road over just off of West Main Street. That's where we used to go to Woodward's Cafe for fried chicken, the best maybe in the world. Pink Anderson, who was the legendary, important Piedmont blues musician, lived over off of Thompson Street. Peter, eventually made his home in Nashville, and that's where his career really took off. And he became a nationally acclaimed music journalist there and well-regarded songwriter too. And those things, happened in Nashville, but he really did get his start in Spartanburg, and as a journalist, as a news writer at the Herald Journal, and writing the Hub City Music Makers book. And I think he always had this deep love for Spartanburg and appreciation of the music culture in Spartanburg and the friendships that he personally had in Spartanburg, and the folks here who gave him opportunities to develop his talent, his writing career, and kind of put him on a course to have opportunities beyond Spartanburg. But I think that connection was always real strong for Peter.